Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be looking at how do you express your sexuality based on your 8th house. So I'm excited to get into this video. If sexuality is a trigger topic for you, maybe this isn't the best video to watch. I'm also not going to be saying that word too often and too frequently because I don't know if that's like a trigger word in the guidelines or whatever. So you guys are going to catch my drift with some things that I'm going to be saying in this video. I also can't go too hardcore or intense. And it is going to be an 18+ video. So those are all of my disclaimers there. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we do, actually, one more thing I want to mention. There's multi-layers to this situation. If you have certain planets in the 8th house, it's going to add a different layer to this whole story. So just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that whatever sign I say, so let's say when we say Aries in the 8th house, this could also apply to you if you have Mars in the 8th house as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it and start with the earth signs, Taurus in the 8th house. So if you have Taurus in the 8th house, for you, sex is going to be very much physical. It's going to be a physical experience for you. You're probably going to be able to detach from your emotions. Taurus is really all about the 5 senses. Thing is, if you do have this placement, you could fall into sex addictions as well. So keep that in mind, because Taurus can be very much overindulgent. They love how something feels and they want to do that thing all the time. So keep that in mind. Another thing with this placement is that for you, maybe financial security or just overall security is going to be very important for you to engage with another person. So keep that in mind. Next, let's look at Virgo in the 8th house. Okay, so this placement, so many things to say. Virgo very much is a perfectionist sign. A lot of the time, whenever you have Virgo in your natal chart, let's say you have a Virgo stellium, a lot of planets in the sign of Virgo, Virgo is going to be very much experimental. They're going to be very much out there, okay? Because what I think, at least this is my theory, I think because they are perfectionists, they want to perfect everything that they do, including this particular area. If you have Virgo in the 8th house, or you're watching for someone who has Virgo in the 8th house, definitely going to be a good experience. Again, this individual really wants to perfect that area. They want to be the best. Another thing with Virgo also is they do tend to be very much overgivers. So if they are overgivers, they could be very much focused on the other person when you do have Virgo in the 8th house. Next, we have Capricorn in the 8th house. I'm going to say this placement can go 2 ways because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So definitely check out my video on Saturn in the 8th house because there could be some restrictions for you if you do have this placement. So Capricorn going 2 ways. One way could be very much their traditional. They need to be in some sort of relationship or dynamic or maybe even marriage. Because again, Saturn is all about the extension, prolonging things. So these types of people could even be the types of people that are like, I want to wait till marriage before I engage with someone in that type of way. So there could be an energy of that. Also, Capricorn in the 8th house can go in a different direction where it's kind of like they're using their sexuality to get to the top. Okay, they can go into the shadow aspects of this, where it's like maybe they're interested in only sleeping with people of status or people who are going to help them get ahead. Capricorn is very much all about no BS. So it's kind of like, if you aren't contributing to my life in a positive way, in a way to get me ahead, you're wasting my time. So there could be an energy of that as well when you have Capricorn in the 8th house. Next, let's look at the air signs. So all of the air signs are going to need a mental or an intellectual connection of some sort, starting with Gemini in the 8th house. If you have Gemini in the 8th house, you're definitely going to need that mental, intellectual stimulation. You're also going to need a lot of variety. Gemini is very prone to getting bored and dropping projects. So this could be the same thing in this particular area. They could be very into you. They could be very all about you, but it's like maybe it's just getting too repetitive, too boring. They want to move on to the next person. So with these people, they're going to need variety in the bedroom. They're also going to need variety maybe in terms of partners, okay? They could be into a lot of different things. This placement, they just want to experiment. So that's the thing when you have Gemini in the 8th house. This placement can also be the type of placement that has a lot of sexual partners throughout their life. Okay, that could also happen. One thing that I will tell you about this placement is they're going to charm your pants off, and that's going to be like their seductress type of way. Okay, they're going to be charming. They're going to create that intellectual connection with you, and it's like they'll be able to get into your heads. Okay, they're going to find a way to just, you know, penetrate your mind is really what that is. That is if you do have Gemini in the 8th house. Next, Libra in the 8th house. Libra is ruled by Venus. They're very much all about the Venusian things in life. Very similar to Taurus in the sense where it's like they can go into the indulgence energy because it's like Venus is all about indulging. They want the finer things in life. They want the beautiful things in life. The thing with Libra though is they're always consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously seeking for the one. So because they're seeking for this, romance is going to be very important for them. They're probably going to be the type that wants to be in a relationship of some sort. When you have Libra in the 8th house, and it's kind of like they're looking for love. That's the thing. Sometimes they can use their sexuality to keep you because they're looking for that love. You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys catch my drift. So Libra can fall into this energy. Also, Libra can be very much people pleasing. So in this area, they could be very much more of a pleaser, okay? All about the other person. Again, looking to keep the other person for themselves because again, they want to be in that unit with an individual. Libra in general feels incomplete if they're not in a unit with another person. So especially in this area, this is how they express themselves. They need to be with another person, but keep in mind, this placement is always going to be looking for love as number one, and then everything else is going to follow. So this is if you have Libra in the 8th house. Next, Aquarius in the 8th house. So this placement is going to be very interesting actually. Right away, I wanted to say they're going to be very much out there. They're going to be very different because of that sudden unexpected change because they are ruled by Uranus. But what I will also add is that Aquarius used to be ruled by Saturn. Okay, so there could be some sort of restrictions in this area. There could be restrictions with expressing the self. I find it's kind of like, I find Aquarius in the 8th house is going to be into a lot of different things, and they might not actually express this to people. They might not actually express this to their partners. They're interested in maybe trying this thing and trying that thing. Keep in mind, Aquarius is always going to go against the norm. So whatever the norm is, they're going to go against it. So if the norm is monogamous relationships, they might be interested in polyamory. If the norm is polyamory, they might be interested in monogamous relationships. That's that energy with Aquarius. So it's like they're always going to be different. They're always going to be quirky. And the thing is, because they are an air sign, once again, they're going to need that mental stimulation, especially intellectual stimulation, because it's all about the higher mind with Aquarius. They really need some sort of depth on an intellectual level. But the thing is also, Aquarius can be very much detached. So this experience might not necessarily be emotional for them. That's the thing. They could be very much, again, very into a person because they want their mind. They want to know what they think. They want to really get into their head. That's the thing if you have Aquarius in the 8th house. Let's look at the water signs, starting with the sign of Cancer. So if you have Cancer in the 8th house, this experience for you is going to be very much on an emotional level. You're going to need an emotional connection with this person. If you have this placement, probably whoever you are engaging with, right away you're visualizing a family with this person. You're very much seeing like a future with this individual. These are the types of individuals you are going to want to engage in this particular area, okay? It's people that you see some sort of future with, someone you want to nest with. You're going to need that emotional connection. You're not going to be the type that's going to be like, I'm able to be detached. You're probably also not going to be the type that's going to be very much like, you know, trying out different people, because Cancer bounces off of Capricorn and you guys are traditional in that sense, where it's very much home, family, nesting, settling down. I wouldn't be surprised for people with this placement who end up in long-term relationships for a longer period of time. This is if you have Cancer in the 8th house. Next, we have Scorpio in the 8th house. So much to say about this placement. Scorpio can be hardcore. They work on extremes. What I will tell you guys for this placement is this person is either going to need a mind, body, spirit connection. The whole thing with Scorpio is that's what they're ultimately seeking. Unfortunately, because they have that deep-rooted fear of betrayal, they're also very much the types to be able to detach emotionally. You'll see them, they can become very, very hypersexual. They can also become very much asexual as well. They're always going to be going through a range in terms of this area in their life, because ultimately they are seeking this individual that they can have that deep connection with, that full-blown experience, the whole spiritual aspect of things when it does come to sexuality. Now, the darker side of Scorpio is they can become very much into like dark magic, sexual magic, these types of things. And also, without realizing, they could be siphoning the energy off of their partners. That's something to keep in mind as well. Because Scorpio does deal with power and control, they can use sexuality as a weapon. So this can manifest in a lot of different ways. They could be very much like the seductress energy, flirting with people, leading people on, thinking that they're going to go into that area when they don't. So these types of things, because it's like, it's very much like a weapon. Even in relationships, they could also withhold from you, okay? So there's an energy of that as well, where it's like, it's so interesting because it's like the scorpionic energy can be very controlled in this area, where it's like they can give you everything in terms of intensity, but they can also give you nothing. And it's kind of like they're teaching you a lesson or whatever it is. Very, very hardcore sign, very much intense sign. They can be very vengeful, especially if they've been betrayed, especially if you like didn't behave in a way that they wanted you to behave, because for Scorpio, it very much deals with respect. So if they feel disrespected in any type of way, they're going to be like I'm shutting you out right now. So that's the thing. If you do have Scorpio in the 8th house, so much more to say. I could probably make a whole video on this, but in a brief, short little window, this is really what will happen if you do have Scorpio in the 8th house. Next, Pisces in the 8th house. These people are going to be dreamers. They're very much about the romance of life, romanticizing things. They're very much going to need romance in their life. That's the thing, to basically engage in this area, because if they don't have that romance, they're going to be disappointed. That's the thing. So there could be an energy of disappointment attached with Pisces in this area, where it's like, oh, I expected you to put roses on my bed and write for me in the sky and whatever it is. They want grand gestures. That's the thing. They want grand gestures. If they receive them, they're going to basically give you everything. That's the thing with Pisces in the 8th house. Also, for people who have this placement, it could be very much a spiritual experience. So keep that in mind. I mean, sexuality and spirituality are closely connected, but these types of people, it's like they take this very seriously. Kind of like Scorpio, they do need that mind, body, spirit connection. But what's interesting is for them, they could be channeling, they could be getting ideas while they are engaging sexually with you. So this could also take place if you have Pisces in the 8th house. Also, one more thing I do want to mention is for these individuals and whoever they are engaging with, it's going to be very much a healing experience because it is on that healer's axis. Finally, let's look at the fire signs. I mean, these ones need no introduction. You know, these people are going to be hardcore and intense, especially in terms of their sexuality. There's going to be a lot of passion in this area, very forward, very much like even like aggressive in the sense where it's like they're going after what they want and these types of things. So let's go ahead and start with Aries. If you have Aries in the 8th house, you are ruled by Mars, so you're going to be very much forward in terms of your sexuality. You're going to be very much a go-getter. You're going to know what you want, and things could be fast for you. It's kind of like people could even be taken aback where it's like, wow, you were so forward. You were so open. You said you wanted this, and bam, 15 seconds later, we were in like the closet over there. Very much in this energy where it's like fast, quick. You know, you go after it. It's very much like an impulsive energy as well. Sometimes these individuals could be very much like impulsive in this area, you know, where it's like, oh shoot, like, you know, I kind of reacted in the moment and maybe I wasn't actually into that person, or, you know, whatever, like the animalistic desire took me over. So that's the whole thing. If you have Aries in the 8th house, is going to be very much, again, forward. One thing I do want to say is that Aries and Mars are all about conflict. So there could be a lot of conflict that kind of gets stirred just to like stir up that passion, and then you guys release the energy and it's like, okay, like everything is out of the system. We've made up now. Everything's calm until the next conflict. That's the thing. If you have Aries in that 8th house, is very much like a passionate energy. It's very much an impulsive energy, very much a go-getter energy, go after what they want. And keep in mind, conflict, there's going to be a theme around conflict where it's kind of like pent-up energy, conflict, resolution, you know, if you guys catch my drift. Again, I can't say certain words too many times, so I'm sure you guys are following if you guys are following. So this is the thing if you have Aries in the 8th house. Next, let's look at Leo in the 8th house. Leo in the 8th house, you guys are going to be very much theatrical, okay? It has to be extravagant. It has to be an energy of your ego being stroked. So either your partner complimenting you, you know, on your performance. For you, it's kind of like you're putting on a show. It's kind of like you're putting on a play is really what that is if you have Leo in the 8th house. Also, if you don't get this validation that you're seeking, you're going to go off and look for another partner. That's important to keep in mind. The Leo in the 8th house needs that, you know, ego stroked and very, very much to be complimented and recognized for like their efforts, because it's kind of like, again, they're putting on a show. It's like a theatrical thing. So I'm sure you guys can visualize what I'm kind of trying to get across here. Again, talking a little bit in code, but this is the thing if you have Leo in the 8th house. Now, these people can sometimes come off selfish. They can also become like overly focused on themselves in this area. And they could also like get too focused on like the performance aspect of it. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like they're putting on the show, but they're not actually engaging and enjoying themselves. So there could be an energy of this, but that's the thing. When you have Leo in the 8th house, keep in mind, if this individual gets their ego bruised in any way, shape, or form in this area, they're probably like gonna very much disconnect like almost immediately. That's the thing. Leo is like, if they get burned like just once, they like retract, because it's like their ego is fragile in that way. If you guys have this placement, maybe it's something you guys will have to work on. If you're engaging with someone who has this placement, knowing this, right, and kind of like being like, oh my god, that was the best experience ever. That's kind of what they're looking for. If they don't get it from you, they're going to move on to the other person. So this is Leo in the 8th house. Finally, let's look at Sagittarius in the 8th house. So Sagittarius is all about expansion. It's the energy of Jupiter. So when you have this placement in here, engaging in any sort of sexual activity could be very much an expansive experience for you. It's kind of like you just feel lucky after, you know what I mean? And it's like everything opens up for you and you feel so optimistic and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm on top of the world. I'm going to go and apply for that job, and you get that job and whatever it is, right? So it's going to be very much an expansive experience for you. Now, another thing with Sagittarius is they're very much athletic energetically. So it's like they could view this as a form of a workout. It could become hardcore and intense with someone who has this placement, because it's kind of like they're treating it more of like a workout. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't get my workout in today and this is going to be my workout. So there could be an intensity of that. Now keep in mind, all the fire signs are passionate, as I mentioned way earlier. So it's like there's definitely going to be a lot of passion involved. Now another thing with this placement is they could have a lot of sexual partners in foreign places. So I could have like a secret, you know, like one night stand they had over here in Japan and over there in Kazakhstan or wherever, right? So that could be something that takes place. And another thing also is like, if you look at their history, you're going to kind of be like, who are all these people? Like, how are you into these people? Because Sagittarius is about the higher mind. So there's something there that like intellectually stimulated them. They found this person to be really interesting. They found this person to just like have a vibe, and they kind of got along with this person. It's like, if you look at their past, you might be surprised, but it's like there's always a common thread of like something interesting about that person, something that basically sparked that Sagittarian higher mind. And again, it's expansive. Really, that's the thing. If you do have Sagittarius in the 8th house, I do hope that you guys did enjoy my quick little video here. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. You guys can also let me know in the comments below as well. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.